I love Halo. I loved it when I played it for the first time in 2001 on my original Xbox, which is actually still sitting back here in my setup. Also, the first game I ever rolled credits on. Not due to its amazing accessibility, it actually had quite the opposite. Actually, also at that time, I didn't even know what the term meant. But through the grit and determination of an 18-year-old, I spent a couple weeks playing that game until I rolled credits. And I loved Halo ever since. Now jump to 25 years later to where we have a new version of Halo Combat Evolved in Halo Campaign Evolved. It's also the first time that it's available for PlayStation players. Now, did Halo Studios take the opportunity when remaking this game to add in more modern gameplay, which also includes accessibility? Is this the first time that disabled players can be able to properly play or accessibly play the very first Halo game? Let's find out. I'm Steve Saylor, I'm blind, and if you're wondering how I can be able to play video games if I'm blind, or what I can see when I'm playing video games if I'm blind, if you take a look at the video here or click the link in the description down below, you'll be able to see that video and see exactly what I see. Also, I would encourage you to be able to click the like and subscribe buttons, especially subscribe, because I want to be able to grow this channel. And if you're interested in more accessibility reviews, previews, and different conversations around the gaming industry with an accessibility lens, please feel free to subscribe so we can keep this channel growing. So let's talk about Halo Campaign Evolved. And yes, I did play it on PlayStation. Actually, I played it on my PlayStation 5 Pro with my DualSense Edge controller. That is my default controller whenever I'm playing PlayStation games. And it felt weird, not gonna lie. It felt a little awkward, like the fact that I was playing a Halo game on PlayStation, which is, I never thought I would ever see the day, but here we are, and I gotta say, I enjoyed it. It felt like that the game, in a way, kind of grew up with me, in a sense of, it's still the same game that I remember, but just more modernized, with the very different aspects of what a remake can do. It has obviously better graphics, better performance, better modern gameplay, but they also, Halo Studios took the time to be able to add in a few extra elements that really kind of make this, again, this game felt like it grew up with us over the past 25 years. First of which is, now that we have about 25 years of Halo lore and different Halo stories that we've experienced in the past 2.5 decades, they actually were able to go back and kind of add in some of that context and nuance into the first Halo game that we didn't have before. Case in point, they actually changed a few of the cinematics in order to be able to kind of accommodate some of that lore and add a little bit more nuance and subtlety to some of these performances. Yes, you still get the same story that you got in every cinematic, but you get to add a little bit extra in there with the ability to be able to do that, which I guess was probably limited when they made this game for the original Xbox back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And you notice it right away when in that first sort of cinematic that you have on the Pillar of Autumn with Captain Keyes. I won't spoil it for you, but I will say that there are some new like nuances and new subtlety or subtle things that were added in that still, you know, keeps the original cinematic there, but just adds a little extra context to that cinematic that they didn't have when this world was still brand new back in 2001. So I really appreciated that. I actually thought like it made the game in a way pretty much like familiar, but also fresh at the same time. Again, this game is also very beautiful. Like Halo Studios really took their time to learn how to be able to use Unreal Engine 5 and use it to the best of its ability. It's exactly how I remember the game looking, but now actually it looks even better. It kind of is what I imagined the world to look like instead of what the graphics were back in 2001. So this game is absolutely gorgeous. Every detail is superb. Every even character animation was amazingly done as well. There's a lot more there's a lot more acting, to be honest, in this one, and I want to give it up to the Halo Studios animation team or performance capture team to really really in a way, like make these characters like a lot more alive and a lot more like emotive in their responses to you, and also within the cinematics at the same time. So I really do appreciate it. And I will say that there are definitely some nitpicks that I could have with this, though. Even though I love the gameplay, I love the aesthetic and the performance and the new sort of cinematics, but there are some elements that I think just kind of sort of butt up against the original design of Halo Combat Evolved that they're trying to be able to sort of put band-aid solutions on in Halo Campaign Evolved that kind of clash a little bit. One of which that came up for me, and I don't know if it came up for anybody else when they were reviewing it, but I had the trouble with the reload animations. They're fine, they look cool, but I find that they are just a little too long. They last at least about a second or two, and you really can't do anything. You literally do have to wait until that reload animation is done in order for you to be able to fire again. And it happened more, like if it happened once or twice, I would kind of forgive it, but it happens quite a few times where I would be stuck in a reload animation and I would die in that while I'm trying to wait so I can be able to fire a weapon. I would basically be dead by that point. And it happened quite a few times that it stood out to me. There's also some sort of things that kind of that really a little bit more nitpicky stuff, like there were a few times where I'm in a gunfight and it was hard to be able to see just because of the new particle effects that were kind of everywhere with the different weapons, and it didn't really affect performance, at least that I could be able to tell. Now granted, I'm playing on a PS5 Pro, so I don't know whether or not it sort of was affecting anyone who's playing this on PC or Xbox or even a base PS5. But for me, it just felt like it was almost a little too much on the screen, and it was difficult for me to be able to see what I was doing. And also, I would say this game is definitely not a pushover. I was playing this at first on the regular normal difficulty, and it definitely, there were times I kind of felt like, oh, this is a little bit more difficult, and it took me a little bit longer to be able to play the campaign itself, and I technically still haven't really finished it yet because it's taken me a little bit longer to be able to complete it than I had originally thought. So, and there's the few other things here and there, but I won't get into too much detail. But I will say, even with those nitpicks, it doesn't sort of overshadow what this game was. And so if I had to kind of give it a general score, I probably would give it a 3.5, maybe even a 4 out of 5 in terms of this definitely is a game that I would recommend just from a general standpoint. Now let's talk about the accessibility. There's really not much to tell about accessibility. There are some good things in here, but I will say this: if you played Halo Infinite or attempted to play Halo Infinite, and you were hoping that maybe there would be new accessibility in Halo Campaign Evolved that they were able to improve upon or add into with the tools that Halo Studios has in order to be able to make it more accessible than Halo Infinite, unfortunately, there's really not much that's different. There is one addition that I feel is worth noting, but I'll get to that in a minute. But as far as what else it had, it has pretty much almost one for one the exact same accessibility from Halo Infinite to Halo Campaign Evolved. There's improvements, and it's definitely a few things, I think better quality of life improvements to those features. Notably, there are the screen reader is back. It is reading off not only the menus, but it is reading the in-game HUD for certain text that pops up on screen, including whether you can be able to when you can be able to hit a button to be able to pick up any new weapons.
Square button swap for plasma pistol. Square button equalize assault rifle.
And also updates whenever a checkpoint is loaded, and also what the new objective is.
Checkpoint done. Square button. Square button.
There's one last lifeboat. Quickly, get aboard before it launches.
So the screen reader is actively working, and you can be able to adjust the volume and the speed as well, which is great. There's also remapping of controls, which is also awesome. There's you can be able to adjust the text size of all the global text that's actually in the game to make it a little bit bigger, which is awesome. But they also even tweaked it a little bit where if you want to be able to say have a global text size that is at its largest setting, you could go into the subtitles as well and be able to keep that global text size to kind of match 1-for-1 with whatever you set the global text size to be, or you can actually go in and adjust just the subtitles only. So I actually had the global text size to be large and the subtitles to be more medium, just to try it out to see what it looked like. Now, I probably would have upgraded upscaled the subtitle text to be onto the larger size instead of the medium. But I felt like it was like, I thought that was a nice quality of life touch, that you don't necessarily are not locked into just a one particular size fits all for all of the text that's on screen. I will also say as well, the HUD and interface is kind of also designed to be default to be large to begin with. So that's also kind of a nice blessing. And even with the largest text size, it just enhances it even more for my own personal gameplay. You can also be able to adjust a few color things here and there. There's some colorblind options, including you can also adjust the reticle size and also boldness for outline and also different color, which is great. The brand new feature that I think is definitely worth looking at is the difficulty presets that you can be able to set for this game. You actually can be able to create not only just one difficulty preset, you can actually create 4. You can create 4 custom presets that if you feel like you want to be able to, okay, this works better in co-op, or this works better in my own solo gameplay, not only just for disabled players, but also if you want more of a challenge for your solo campaign versus if you want to be able, if you need to adjust it to be able to accommodate for co-op, you can be able to have these different presets already set aside, so you don't have to go in and manually adjust every single time you want to jump into whether it's a solo or co-op campaign, which is awesome. And including even getting into the remix campaign, where basically once the game is done, you can actually go back and they change out the enemies and the placement of enemies in the level, so that way it kind of makes the game even more fresher than it was before, which is really cool. Now, what you can adjust in those presets or modify in those presets are 5 different control factors. You can adjust damage resistance, shield recharge rate, damage modifier, melee damage modifier, and ammo. Damage resistance is how much you can be able to take, and the higher the number, the more harder it is for you to die. There's also shield recharge rate. You can change the speed of how much that shield gets recharged. There's also a damage modifier, which gives you a little bit more extra oomph in your weapon, and you can be able to deal more damage. You can also be able to adjust the melee damage modifier and how much damage that can be able to take. And you can be able to adjust how much ammo you get or how little ammo you get. And that's, I love the way that we can be able to customize these difficulties to not only make it a little bit more comfortable, a little bit easier if you wanted to, but you can also make it more difficult if and with the addition of obviously adding in the skulls and adding those elements into the gameplay, it really does make this game a lot more replayable and a little bit more fresh and challenging if you want it to be. And I actually felt like that was a good accessibility aspect, is these damage modifiers, or sorry, is these preset difficulties. And I like the fact that you can be able to save and create your own custom ones that you can be able to switch back and forth as you work. I will say though, like you would have to essentially, in order to be able to change out those presets, you can't just go in during the gameplay or during the game and adjust those as you play. You actually have to back out of the menu, change the preset, and then go back in again. So you have to make sure this, like, the default is when you exit out to the menu, it does save and quit, or save and exit. So it does save where you were. You don't have to worry about not like basically being dropped back to a beginning of a checkpoint or beginning of a mission if you do that. But it's just unfortunately, it's a little annoying to be able to have to do that each time. I think it's because it probably has to reload the instance with the new modifiers in place. So I think that's probably why it's done that way. But it would have been great if you can be able to just adjust it on the fly, or have even a shortcut to be able to switch between the different modifiers if and as when you need it. So I think that that's really great. As beyond that though, unfortunately there's quite a few things missing. There's no high contrast mode. There's no navigational assistance to get you through the level, or even let you know where enemies are. There is no auto aim or auto targeting, unfortunately. That I felt that could have been a really great element to add into this, or a little bit of a quality of life thing to add into this that would have been awesome. And as far as like there's some sort of visual elements for deaf and hard of hearing players to be able to let you know when things are happening off camera or off screen, which the original Halo game kind of had to a degree, so they didn't really change a lot of that. And also there's no captions for any of the funny like grunt kind of lines or brute lines that basically you get to hear throughout the entire campaign. And they actually added in a few new lines for this new version of Campaign Evolved that I thought was actually pretty funny. And unfortunately, though, those aren't captioned for deaf and hard of hearing players. Cognitively, it's the same as pretty much if you're able to play a Halo game or a first-person shooter, you can generally play this relatively okay. I do find that it could potentially add maybe a little bit of motion sickness. You are able to adjust field of view, and your reticle is pretty much at center at all times. There is even a setting that basically kind of resets the camera to the center if you have any difficulty with that. But beyond that, if you have trouble playing first-person shooters and those features don't help you in games, this might be a little bit difficult. I should also actually mention there is camera shake and motion blur. You can be able to turn those on and off, which does help a little bit. So with all that being said, even though that I've enjoyed playing this, and yes, it definitely is more accessible than the original Halo ever was, I do feel that they could have done a little bit better. There are definitely some new accessibility features that have been introduced over the past couple of years that I felt could have been very welcome in this new version of Halo. Stuff like high contrast mode, maybe a navigational assistance, or even a better like captions for those grunts, or even an auto aim or auto targeting could have really helped out a lot of disabled players to be able to jump in and be able to play Halo for the first time. But unfortunately, those are just not there. And again, even I had trouble trying to play this, and again, I still haven't completed the game. And I definitely and I know a few of my friends who've been able to not only play through the campaign once, but they've actually been able to play it like a couple of times through, and I've barely been able to get through it once. I still want to be able to keep playing it, and it is still I'm scratching that nostalgia itch for the original Halo. But as far as accessibility is concerned, it's okay. And I probably would say that, yeah, if any of those options I mentioned work for you, as if you're a disabled player, then great. If not, then I don't think that this might be the Halo that you could be able to play. So with that, for Halo Campaign Evolved on PlayStation 5 as well as on Xbox and PC, I would have to give the score for accessibility a 3 out of 5. Well, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you have any comments or questions about the Halo Campaign Evolved's accessibility, please let me know in the comment section down below. If you like this video, like this review, give it a thumbs up. And also, once again, hit the subscribe button so you can be able to see more reviews, more previews, and more chats about accessibility in the video game industry. Thank you once again for watching. I'll see you in the next one. And until next time, as always, I remain obedient to yours. Bye-bye.